Well, my father owned an airplane. He's owned a couple of them. But this particular one was a Piper PA-20 Tri-Pacer. Had a 120 horsepower engine. It went about 110 miles an hour, maybe 120. Spring came. He assembled the airplane. And a gentleman by the name of Paul White, who was an FAA inspector, had to go with my father to do the initial flight to make sure everything was all right. So Paul and my father got in the airplane, started it up. And I guess everything ran really good. Well, after an hour, maybe they came back, landed the airplane. Paul White signed off on Dad's logbook, said checking it out, and everything checked out, and it looked really good. So time came for me to get in the airplane. We taxied out on the end of this grass runway. But, I mean, the airplane sounded really good, so he gave it the throttle, headed down the runway to take off. We get up to takeoff speed, got in the air, and on the ascent, we were maybe 100 feet off the ground, maybe 150 feet. The engine started to sputter, and it was bad. The engine didn't completely stop, but it just didn't have enough RPM to keep us flying, you know. So we knew we were in trouble at that point. He's doing a good job of it. We were losing altitude, though, because we were barely hanging up there. And he made a full rudder turn to the right, and we were aiming for a field next to the airfield we took off from, because we thought we might be able to set it down in that, you know, without doing too much damage. But there was a tree line between the two fields, and we were just losing too much altitude, you know. You could tell we weren't going to clear the trees, and we clipped probably the top 10 feet of these trees. It slowed the airplane down enough and stalled the engine. And we just headed into the ground after that. It's funny because I remember those last couple of seconds after the engine shut off, you could just hear the wind go by the cockpit. To the impact of the ground, he reached behind him and grabbed a cushion from back and stuck it in front of us. It was a very good thing. I don't think he put it in front of him. It was just me. He stuck it in front of us, you know, to soften the blow. We hit the ground, probably doing 60, maybe 70 miles an hour. Kind of woke up and we were kind of looking at each other, and there's blood all over the place. So I cut my head. And of course, we're both kind of face down on the ground. The engine ended up right between us. It got pushed back up into the cockpit, and the propeller landed right between us. I mean, I couldn't believe it because the propeller was right between our heads. I mean, I never figured that one out, but that was a lucky stroke. So I'm sitting there and kind of come out of it, and I go, Dad, look at all the blood. There's blood everywhere. And he goes, shut up, that's my blood. So I kind of had a little chuckle about that there. So the door was on my side, so I popped the door open, and I got out, and he's trying to get out. Of course, the gas tanks had ruptured, and you can kind of smell gas everywhere, so I was really panicking. The rudder pedal had pinned his right foot against the firewall. And he was panicking. He could not get out of there. You know, he really wanted to get out. So I think I had a jackknife with me, and I think he cut the laces on his boot, and he got out after that. So we're just kind of standing there, looking at the airplane, shaking our heads, you know, because we're both in shock. Got in the car and drove to the hospital, and I got some stitches, and he broke 4 ribs. I think he broke his foot trying to get out of the boot, and he was just really lame for a long, long time after that. That's ended my flying days pretty much. He joined the air club out to the air base after that. But that's about it. That's all there was to that one. You go up and you come down. It happens.